The New Mutants is a movie. Okay, take two. The New Mutants is the latest, or maybe last film in the X-Men franchise, directed by Josh Boone, starring Macy Williams, newcomer Blue Hunt, Charlie Heaton, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Alice Braga, among others. Now, the story of the New Mutants is pretty interesting. Not the actual plot, that is kinda sucky, much like everything else about it, but rather I'm talking about the production of this film and the behind-the-scenes chaos of it all. This film was originally supposed to come out in 2018, believe it or not, but there were just reshoots upon reshoots, and Fox just kept wanting a different movie. Like when It in 2017 came out, they tried to rebrand it, even though they'd been basically making a young adult movie. They wanted to shift it to the horror nature instead, and then they kept reshooting and reshooting, I can't stress this enough, and then they finally kind of had it finished, and then the Fox-Disney merger happened, and so then it got pushed back even further, and then this year, when it was meant to come out, the coronavirus knocked at the door, everyone's favorite virus, and it knocked it back even further, and so now it's like the first Disney-owned movie to come out in theaters since for a while, anyway. It's been for a while. So, there you go. It's box office potential as well. Not that anyone I know is particularly interested in seeing it. And there's also some cute little accusations of whitewashing characters and racism and stuff like that, which is all not super appealing to audiences, which is kind of a yikes. But it is a bit of a disaster for Boone and Company overall to get consistently screwed over like this. But I was still nonetheless morbidly curious to check it out to see what the hell was the deal with this film. And how was it? Well, I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty bad. Like, pretty damn bad, dude. I don't even really know what else to say. Like, it was just consistently not a very good film throughout. And it's even worse that this is probably the last of this universe of X-Men movies, though it certainly went out with a whimper between this and Dark Phoenix, which I haven't seen, but have heard is certainly less than stellar. If there's one word I could use to describe the New Mutants, it would simply be confused. This is a very confused and scattered film, probably due to how extensively it was meddled with behind the scenes, and it really, really suffers a lot for it, being a film only notable for its own total blandness. The first scene of the film looked a bit like this cinematography-wise. And from that point forth, it just about lost me, like just in the first 5 minutes or so. But the thing you really notice about it right away is just how unbelievably unoriginal it is. This is going to include some light spoilers, so skip to here if you don't want to get them, but I don't know if who's going to really care about that. But anyway, so it starts with our protagonist Danny, played by Blue Hunt, with some fairly mixed results. It starts with her father dying, right? And from there on, she's transported to a facility where she finds out that she's a mutant, and Dr. Reyes, played by Alice Braga, is treating other mutants to find out their powers so that they can properly integrate into society. But not as all as it seems. And at this point, I'm sure you're thinking, well, I've seen this film before. And trust me, you have. This film takes all the worst parts of young adult and horror movie trends that were popular 3 years ago, like when it started filming, and mixes them together into a grey sludge of a film utterly devoid of any sort of style, charisma, or personality. The script is so utterly underwhelming, and all of the characters are developed incredibly poorly. Anya Taylor-Joy, who is usually a star in things like The Witch, has an unbearably lazily written character in the form of Illy, and is given no direction with her performance whatsoever. The only characters who get any sort of development are Danny and Rain, spelt like rain, as you can see on screen, naturally, who have a bit of a love story going on, but even this just, sucks. All the dialogue is so utterly predictable, cheesy, and legitimately a bit cringy in parts, and none of it feels remotely natural across the whole film. Roberto and Sam, who I forgot the name of until I looked up who he was played by, which was Charlie Heaton, get pretty much no significant development and merely seem to inhabit the same space as the rest of the characters, and Alice Braga plays a pretty unconvincing villain. Anya Taylor-Joy's Illy has, the tiniest modicum of depth, you could say. She kind of goes from being an asshole to being a little bit less of an asshole. And that's about it, really. There's maybe 3 characters that get any sort of development, and all of it is really not very good. This is a really small cast of characters, only about 6, and so it's incredibly important that the script is really well done and it has solid performances, but neither of these things are even remotely present here. There's just like no direction at all to be seen anywhere in this film, which is definitely a shame because films typically do need directors and stuff like that. The New Mutants really just feels like it was made by studio heads. Like, there's no directorial voice, no artistic choices being made. This may be one of the most product-feeling films I've ever seen, but one that is just horrendously out of fashion. It feels like it's trying to appeal to both the generic horror and young adult crowd, and really doesn't please either of those bases. Speaking of which, the horror in this movie is absolutely bloody atrocious, thanks in large part due to an over-reliance on CGI. You can tell it was meant to be a 2017-2018 movie because it's got the same PS3 look to it that Justice League has. And really, there's just nothing to this film. Like, I'm really genuinely struggling to come up with any more words to say. Like, I wrote a bit of a script and this is only like a page and a half of stuff. Like, I was struggling to cut it down with my Tenet review, for instance. But there's just nothing to say about this film. Like, I don't know if I hated it, like, but I just didn't like anything about it, and I didn't despise anything either. So it's just a really bland, conversation-draining film. It's actually kind of a shame, because all the pieces are here for a great film. It's got a great cast, an interesting set of characters, or so I've heard. It's got a great set of characters. And a genuinely interesting setup to make like a horror comic book film. Like, no one's done that yet, really. But none of these parts move together at all, and it's hard to know who to blame. Is it the director, the studio, the Disney acquisition, or maybe just a bit of everything? But regardless of where the blame lies, simply put, The New Mutants is just unbearably bland and boring and just not even really worth talking about. And really, isn't that the worst thing a movie can be? Film can inspire so many emotions, positive or negative. That's what I really look for in movies, especially when I talk about them. The New Mutants is the kind of bad where I'm going to forget about it in a few weeks, since there was absolutely nothing memorable about it. And really, I think that's the most scathing thing I can say about it. There's nothing to discuss here, and I really genuinely just don't think it's worth your time. And with that, I'm going to slap The New Mutants with a solid 3 out of 10. Definitely not worth catching coronavirus for. You can put that one on the Blu-ray box. Whoa, hey, I didn't see you there. Welcome to the end of the video. That was really dumb and cheesy, but I'm just gonna roll with it. I hope you enjoyed this video of me kind of just slam dunking The New Mutants. But other than that, just gonna ask you the usual. Gonna ask you to leave a like. Gonna ask you to subscribe. Gonna ask you to leave a comment. Engage in some of that healthy discussion if you so feel like it. And I hope you haven't seen this movie, but please comment anyway. And yeah, please check out my other videos, or video at the moment, and my channel. And I'm going to link some of my socials in the description, so check it out. Thank you, and bye. Mwah.